Guess what?
What?
Johto, recap video for week 3!
What?
What?
That was the last line.
Oh, okay.
Just.
How's it going, y'all? Back again, once again. This is Matt Crabtree, the proud coach of the Goldenrod City Shinies, here with good Sir Blake.
I am the proud. I still don't remember what I've come up with for Shamoody Island Slow Kings.
The Chamberlain of the Shamoody Island Slow Kings.
Last time I used, like, Chancellor
Grand Meister.
of the Shamoody Island Slow
There's
Kings.
a lot of really good titles out there for all of you coaches and wannabe coaches who
Right.
hopefully we're inspiring through our videos. So please donate.
This might help. Anyway, let's go right into the recaps.
All right. So the first one on the list looks to be a very impressive battle between Trevor and David.
Wait, no, we're doing down here. Tyler and Keenan.
Fine. Tyler and Keenan. I stuttered.
That was just a stutter, that's all. Tyler was prepared, and Keenan was also prepared, except for Tyler. Tyler realized that he was missing something and took a while. So they were one of the last battles of the day at Casa Case. But Tyler had fun, and Keenan had fun.
No, but in all seriousness, the one thing that I did want to mention is just how scary some of the Pokemon in that match were, particularly the fact that with the battle between Tyler versus Keenan, just what Mega Pinsir did and what he was able to accomplish. Now, I got to say that I've always been a fan of Mega Pinsir. In the initial draft process for this season, I thought that I was really... it was really a battle for me between if I wanted to draft Mega Pinsir or if I wanted to stick with Mega Gyarados, and I think I ultimately went with Mega Gyarados because of just some prior experiences I had. But one, shiny Mega Pinsir is just absolutely phenomenal coming from the Goldenrod City Shiny, so a little place in my heart for Mega Pinsir. But also the fact that it has a really amazing ability in Aerialate.
Yes.
So you get the
return,
which is amazing. Quick attack, even better for the priority sake, which I don't know if actually that came in handy in this particular battle. I imagine it did.
It did.
I know, coming from a team that possesses 5 priority users, I can tell you just how important priority is, especially
Priority
for a Mega.
is very scary. It is something you have to be prepared for.
Right, because
It's like make your team based on their priority.
exactly. At the end of the day, if you're not prepared to face a Mega Pinsir that can just quick attack and do substantial damage because of Aerialate, then you're not going to have a fun time, simply put.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, though, too, I know that Tyler, and I'm trying to see what the specific matchup was, but there was one notable thing in terms of what Tyler was able to do, and against his match with Keenan, we don't have anything uploaded on the document, so I can't do too much of that.
He brought Stoutland and... Well, no. Doesn't he have Mega Tyranitar? Yeah, Tyler has Mega Tyranitar. It's not updated.
So that wasn't updated either.
Mega... It was a good match.
All right, moving on to the next battle.
The key was, though, to keep Mega Pinsir alive, and Keenan, you did a really good job of that, because Mega Pinsir was like a top threat against Tyler's team.
Absolutely. And I know that at least from Keenan's perspective, since those are the only notes that I can actually really go off of, in addition to Mega Pincer, I know Rotom Wash was able to put a couple of different pieces of work in.
Lots of checks.
And that's something that I want to speak of as well, because I had Rotom Wash last season. I wasn't able to capitalize on it too much, but Rotom Wash really is a good pivot. I mean, we're all competitive battlers. We all know these different terms. But what Rotom Wash is really good at is checking, because it's just so bulky, so it can come in and check something, or even hard counter some of your fire types, so it would be a good block to Entei or something like that. I know that it can Volt Switch out, and that way you can get the momentum going.
Oh, yes.
And if you possess more than one Volt Switch or U-turner, then that just becomes a really good combination. So last season, that combination for me, and I don't think I used it too well, was Talonflame with U-turn and Rotom with Volt Switch, because not only is it that momentum that you can just build and you can continue to Volt turn or Volt Switch and U-turn,
right?
But they also had good typing matchups that they could counter each other's weaknesses pretty well. I know in this case,
Grass hits Rotom pretty well, and then Talonflame comes in and checks Grass.
Absolutely. So that's a really good way to accomplish it. And even then, you could probably still even count that relationship with Pinsir, just because of the flying type for Grass or anything like that. So good battle overall. So good luck to you guys next week as well.
Our next battle is the crossover.
Dun dun.
Cross battle between Nick and Austin. It was a very hard-fought battle on Showdown.
And I did want to mention as well, I know that a couple people mentioned one way or another the involvement of Showdown in this particular battle. I don't particularly have an opinion on it. I think that if we can just all be civil in terms of how we settle it, I don't think it's that big of a deal. I know that Austin mentioned that he didn't want anyone butthurt about it. I agree. So as long as we can keep it to a minimum, since I know that it wasn't Nick's fault, it was Austin's in this case, because it was Austin's Wi-Fi wasn't working. That there should be some leniency in that. But we just got to try to keep it to a minimum, as we agreed prior to the season.
Right.
So I know that with a lot of us being in college or having busy schedules, one way or the other, I know it's hard to meet up sometimes to actually do that. Austin, I can speak of personally in particular, because he goes to Michigan State. I was in that very same boat last year. So, that commute sometimes can be a pain, especially with jobs involved. So that's just one point I wanted to mention. So in the future, we'll try to keep it to a minimum, and I just want to make sure that everyone's on the same page with this. But at the same time, I think that there should be some understanding in place. So, but getting to the actual battle part itself between Austin and Nick, I know that in this case, Austin came out victorious with a 2-0 win, and really that boils down to one ingredient, and that is Mega Gallade. Mega Gallade has a pretty awesome typing, I think, with psychic and fighting, because there's other great psychic fighting types out there. Mega Metacham, I believe, is one of them, but Mega Gallade is particularly unique. I remember using Gallade back in the day at 4th gen when it wasn't Mega. But what Mega Gallade can do in this generation is a lot different than back then. And in this particular battle, the matchup between what Nick had and what Austin did ultimately allowed Austin to just essentially run train with what he had. I know that in that particular scenario,
Aromatisse was a very good check to Gallade. With that fairy typing, it can just take lots of hits. And there were other checks to Gallade, but they weren't up to par, and Gallade was able to take out a lot of Nick's team.
It also is too, and I mentioned this to a couple of you guys who I've seen in the past week or so. Competitive battling boils down to one thing and one thing only. And what that thing is regretting decisions you made during the battle. There is no enjoyment until after the fact. I mean, there's occasional moments of, yes, I got the crit, or I got the hacks, or I predicted the switch. But ultimately, the biggest thing that you remember and the biggest thing you feel is the regret that is involved with that particular battle. I know that after the fact, everyone's just like, oh, if I only had done this, then I could have 2-0'd, or if I didn't get that burn, then I wouldn't have been able to do this.
But when you're in the heat of the moment and you don't know what your opponent's going to choose, you just have to go with your gut instinct. And sometimes it helps you and sometimes it hurts you.
Absolutely, and I know that in our league in particular, and with a lot of the different leagues across the country and the world that are being set up in this fashion, having those 12 Pokemon to choose from and all the free agents and trades that you could possibly do makes the possibilities pretty limitless, essentially. Even though sometimes week to week we feel constrained to maybe those 6 Pokemon that we ultimately have to take into battle, you have everything in front of you in terms of the tools that are available to you to see who has what do I think he's gonna I don't think there's any she's in the league, so what he's gonna bring that I can ultimately respond with. And there is a lot of that preparation that you can do to make sure that you could potentially come out on top, and being prepared is key. Although in my experience, preparing for 6 hours against an opponent who will not be named ultimately resulted in a 5-0 in his favor, not mine. So take that with a grain of salt, you guys.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, you might come out just looking like a fool with your pants on the ground.
Sometimes you prepare too much, and then you just feel worse at that point, especially if you lose.
Right. And I know that a lot of you out there will have your notes and you scribble. I know that I do that on occasion. So really, if your style is to come prepared to battle with all those different notes set up in hand, more power to you, because chances are you might be able to make some smarter decisions versus just coming and enjoying the moment itself with all the different things that come of it, just randomness and spontaneity. But getting back to the battle between Austin and Nick, I do believe
it was really nice to see a Abomasnow in this battle.
Oh, absolutely.
And I do remember Suicune was setting up 1 or 2 Calm Minds, and it was getting kind of scary. And I was looking at Austin's team, and I'm like, what's gonna take down this Suicune? And he sends in Abomasnow. I'm like, oh, I really hope this is a physical Abomasnow. And then it wood hammers.
Exactly.
And I was like, yes.
Right.
That Suicune was so terrifying.
So,
but that physical Abomasnow really pulled through.
And I know that in the battle that Austin had with Nick as well, Volcarona, Nidoking, and a couple others on Nick's team were able to pick up those occasional kills to just sort of to keep the battle going, weed down the possibilities of response. So overall, a really good battle, well fought, and again, good luck to you guys next week.
Right. And victory for Kanto.
Victory for Kanto, indeed, you guys.
From Austin.
And if we haven't mentioned it already, I know that everyone has access to the Google Doc in some way, shape, or form. The current standings, the top 3 in the Kanto League are Trevor with 3 victories and no losses, with a plus 12. Oh, I can't speak about the other ones.
Yeah, well, let's do it. Trevor's plus 12 in Kanto. Austin's 2-1 with 2 wins. Matt.
And that's what I wanted to mention. I'm in the top 3, you guys, so you guys can all suck.
Matt's number 3.
And then, more importantly, in Johto, Drew is a 3-0 with
3-0.
plus 6. Adam is also at plus 6, but with a 2-1 loss to, hilariously enough, Drew. And then Keenan rounding out the top 3 with a 2-1 at a 0 overall KD. And jumping right into the next battle, we have
Monty and Anthony. Monty and Anthony's battle was pretty late at night. Monty had a football game, or
football,
as you Americans call it, soccer.
Right. And the one thing that I want to point out about this battle in particular was the setup that was involved by both sides that ultimately counteracted each other and ultimately set the tone for the entire battle. And there's different opinions in the competitive sphere of setting up early, because if you're prepared for that early setup, you can ultimately just take out and mitigate that threat.
If the opponent's not prepared for it.
But if it's not, then it might result in a 5 or 6-0, as we have seen in some previous battles. In this case, early setup on both sides pretty simultaneously. I know that Anthony swords danced with Mawile, with the ultimate goal of baton passing that into someone, ultimately Scolipede, I think it was.
It was Scolipede.
But that was counteracted by Monty.
Hoopa's Trick Room.
Right.
So, but I do want to comment that Hoopa was a really good choice. It was kind of questionable because Mawile originally is pretty slow.
Right.
So setting up that Trick Room's kind of scary. But when you look at Anthony's team and his Pokemon, you know he has Charizard and he has Scolipede that both want that Swords Dance, and they're both very fast Pokemon.
Right.
So setting up that Trick Room was kind of ballsy, but it ultimately helped him out a lot.
Yeah, definitely. I know that with some of the newer Pokemon, Hoopa especially, and at some point and I hope I'm not spoiling this for anyone Volcandian. Oh no! That some people might not have the experience battling people through Smogon competitively online through the DS. I know I have personally never faced a Hoopa of any form ever. So I completely understand Anthony's approach to wanting to set up into that Charizard or that Scolipede with the Swords Dances. I wanted to point out that had he potentially had that experience in place and faced a Hoopa in the past, or maybe didn't go with such a ballsy move, he could have even gone for a ballsier move, which was to stay in Swords Dance with Mawile, and maybe because of Mawile's just lackluster speed, been able to do some greater damage that way.
Right. That's why it was kind of 50-50 whether he should have put Trick Room up or not, because Mawile's still really slow. It was kind of scary to put up the Trick Room.
Right.
But it ended up helping him. And Charizard got taken down pretty quickly and wasn't able... And Anthony had no checks for Ferrothorn. And it ended up ultimately being his demise.
Yeah.
Ferrothorn just sat in there, took a bunch of hits. I know Fortress tried exploding. It didn't take it out. There was just nothing he could do against Ferrothorn without Charizard.
I was going to say, looking at Anthony's team, Charizard is his only fire type. And there may be a couple other Pokemon that may be able to get fire type moves of some variety.
Right.
But at the end of the day,
you need
once
fire.
that Charizard's gone, and it's by far the best bet to deal with a wall like Ferrothorn, you're going to have kind of a situation where there's not much you might be able to do.
Right. You need to keep one thing. You need to always make sure you have certain Pokemon that are needed for certain situations.
Oh, for sure.
Right.
And I know that way too many times in my own experience that I've let certain Pokemon die that had I kept would have turned the tide of the battle. Last season was a great example. I think I went the entire season, all 12 battles or whatever it was last season, without getting a single kill with Rotom Wash. And while his main role competitively isn't necessarily as that attacker, isn't meant to get some of those kills, the fact of the matter is if you make decisions to keep Pokemon a little bit longer, or you make a certain play to try to sack something off to keep a thing that you might need in the future, you might be able to put yourself in a better position to actually come out with a victory at the end of the day, whether it's a 1-0, a 0-0, or a 2-0.
Right.
In this season, for the first couple battles, I know that was a situation with me with Mega Gyarados, which is a really excellent competitive battler, a really great Pokemon, and I let it die very early a couple of times. I know against Chris, I got a little bit greedy with Dragon Dance, and that ultimately came to bite me. For the extreme speed, was able to take out Gyarados after that second Dragon Dance.
It was sad to see.
And again against you, where I think I let it go early, and I don't remember the specific
Aerodactyl
manner.
was a little faster and Thunderfanged it, and you weren't You were not expecting that.
Not expecting it at all.
Right.
I know that when I ran Mega Aerodactyl competitively, just for fun back in the day, I would use Ice Fang. That was my move of choice. But regardless, so that's just another thing to think about as well.
Yep, Monty ended up with a 3-0 victory. That
Correct.
Ferrothorn just stood there and took all the hits and ended up winning it for him. The next battle was a very ferocious battle between the two undefeated Johto League people, which was Adam and Drew. Adam with that rain. Drew was preparing all week for the rain. He's like, what am I going to do for the rain? Drew was even thinking, you know what? I might just bring one Pokemon and just lose. I'm just so scared.
Yeah.
And we're like, Drew, you can't do that. You're our only hope to beat Adam.
Right.
And no, I'm just that's just. But Drew kind of.
Hopefully, Drew me one Kenobi. You're my only hope.
Obi-Wan. Okay. Drew put a lot of his faith into Shedinja. Drew had a few I think 2 or 3 of his members on his team specifically to try to keep Shedinja alive. Because if you don't have checks for Shedinja, it will run shop.
Right, because its ability, if you guys don't know, I believe it's Wonder Skin, just makes it so that it's essentially untouchable without the certain conditions in place.
Right, without the super effective moves or the other toxic.
Right, just residual damage that you can build up.
So Shedinja's Drew knew that Shedinja was a threat, but so did Adam. Adam had, I believe it was a Shadow Ball in his Politoed, and it just took Drew right by surprise. But Drew, I helped Drew prepare a little bit. Drew was prepared for Shedinja to get taken down in that he brought his Jirachi. and Jirachi with the Serene Grace helped him win that battle.
And it really was a battle of the Serene Grace, you guys, between the Paraflinch Togekiss, which I love, and that, again, I used back in 4th Gen, before it was even a fairy type.
Before it was cool.
Well, Carl was still cool back then, but before it was hip, and against the Serene Grace Jirachi. And, I mean, just looking at typing alone, Steel, Fairy,
right,
everything said and done. But, yeah, Jirachi is a very unique Pokemon. It has a great typing. It has a great ability, but also it's pretty versatile in its own defenses and its own offensive capabilities. More defensive than offensive in a lot of cases, just being able to stand still and
right. Drew was originally running.
Within.
Yep, Drew was originally running a screens, I believe, on his Jirachi, just to keep his other Pokemon alive.
Gotcha.
But he didn't really have any hard hitters, so he changed his Jirachi to be a hard hitter and ended up winning the game for him. He just
heavy hitters.
Yeah, he just kept it alive, and it did work for him. Adam brought his two, I believe Kingdra and Seismitoad were Swift Swim.
Yep.
Under Politoad's reign, which helped him a lot. And Aggron had the bulk, which Drew had a hard time coming across, getting around. But Drew's Altaria was actually made for Politoad. It had Choice Scarf, not Mega. It was a Choice Scarf Altaria with Cloud 9 to get rid of the rain.
Oh, wow. That's great.
Right.
And I know that I'm not sure if Altaria actually gets this move, but one way to get around the Aggron potentially, and you got to be kind of careful because Mega Aggron's scary because of that steel typing if you Mega Evolve the Altaria. And even if you don't, Steel resists the Dragon.
Right.
But I believe that it can learn
Fire Blast.
And
it brought it.
Right. So that's the biggest way to counteract that Steel.
Drew ended up winning a 1-0. We had one Pokemon left, and it was down to regular Altaria and Aggron. And Altaria went for the Fire Blast to defeat the Aggron. And he just needed that hit, and he got it.
What I was going to say was Aggron's ability when it's
Filter.
Mega Filter is incredibly powerful. Resist 25% of all incoming attacks. That's what makes it so defensive. Not even considering its stats, just that ability alone makes it that much more difficult to take it down.
Being a pure one-type Pokemon means it has no ×4 weakness, so it's only weak to 3 types, which are fighting fire, and ground.
Right.
Instead of being rock, steel, it would have been 4 times weak to fighting. So fighting, the filter wouldn't help the fighting, but only being ×2 weak to 3 really help 3 types really helps the filter out.
Definitely. It filters out the weaknesses, you guys.
Yes, it does. Wait, that's why it's called Filter?
I don't know, maybe.
Okay. That battle was really good, and Drew, kudos to you for the win.
And good luck next week.
The last battle was Zach and Forrest. Zach with his Mega Gardevoir, but you didn't bring Mega Gardevoir. He brought Choice Scarf regular Gardevoir.
Which is a very interesting choice.
Right, but it was really fun to watch. Manaphy came in and actually tail glowed once. It was kind of scary.
That is by far the scariest part of Manaphy, because without Tail Glow, Manaphy is kind of a piece of shit.
It's just a crappy water Pokemon.
Right. I mean, there's way better Pokemon. Without considering that move, there are way better Pokemon of the same typing in OU alone.
Oh, yeah.
Rotom Wash, Suicune, just the two right off the top of my head. Milotic. Mega Gyarados.
Is UU, but it's still great.
Right.
And
there's a lot of Pokemon that ultimately share that typing. They can do a little bit better, but that Tail Glow is what sort of sets it apart from any of those water types.
Right. You have to prepare for that too.
Because if you don't have the preparation in place to handle that Tail Glow Manaphy, and I know that a lot of the description is if you're not prepared, you will fail. But there are certain scenarios, especially with setup moves, that you have to have a very particular way of counteracting it, or else
you lose hope.
You really do. There's no way to address it if you're not prepared. And we faced battles in the past time and time again. I know it's happened to all of us, and sometimes we don't want to admit it, but we come prepared for one very particular scenario, and that thing doesn't happen, and we're left wondering what the hell just happened to us.
Right, and what can you do when you're left in that situation?
And in this battle, I don't think it was that severe. I know that Manaphy was able to do a few things that match.
But there were other Pokemon on Forest teams that really brought him the win.
Right, and set the tone and ultimately set it into stone as well. And those Pokemon probably were most strongly, and the Hitmonchan.
Hitmonchan, yep.
So we talk about like Volt Turn combos and having that momentum. Neither of these Pokemon possess any setup momentum moves like Volt Switch or U-Turn, but the fact that Force was able to hard switch into these Pokemon to be able to take certain moves
and then deal out a lot of damage in Force switches.
Right.
It just really benefited him.
Right, and just that boom, 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 boom coming in, taking damage, dealing damage back.
Right.
Was something that is pretty commendable, because we talk a lot about having to find the right time to make those switches, because they call it a hard switch not just because you're going right into another Pokemon without making a move, but really at the most fundamental because it is hard. It's difficult.
Right.
Because you don't know what's going to happen.
What he's going to use and what you need to take the hit.
Right, like trying to hard switch into Alakazam.
You don't want to do that. I have Alakazam, and that's not fun.
And what we're getting at here is the fact that Registeel, most impressively, really is not an offensive Pokemon at all. It is meant to just sit there and take hits.
Right.
Its legs, like, it doesn't even have knees. It doesn't move. It just sits there. and Hitmonchan, fine boxing gloves and whatnot.
Right.
But maybe with the preparation that Forrest had, and maybe more importantly, not to speak ill of Zach, but the Pokemon that were ultimately brought were unable to deal with those different switches because it
was just unfortunate which Pokemon he brought.
Exactly, and
sometimes.
and looking at what he brought, maybe expecting that Forrest would bring other Pokemon, then it would have worked out a little bit differently.
Yep.
And in total honesty, Registeel and Hitmonchan are not, they're both RU or NU picks. They're not by far something that you would very much be prepared to see, like a Diancie or a Mega Sceptile.
Correct.
But and another thing that we want to point out too is, with the different flying types that may be on Zach's team, or just simply not being able to counter. Okay, I don't actually see that many. What I meant to say was
Braviary and Masquerain.
Braviary and Masquerain. I don't think Masquerain wasn't brought, but Tyrantrum wasn't able to do anything against the Hitmonchan.
Right, or the Registeel.
Or the Registeel. Simply due to typing alone, even though Tyrantrum can be extremely powerful with that head smash. Rock Head, I believe, is the ability.
Right. I know Chestnut's probably one of the top picks to counter Registeel, but it was taking a lot of damage, and ultimately I believe it got critical hit ice punched by Hitmonchan, which really crippled Zach's team.
And getting back to our discussion previously about regretting things that happen in Pokemon battles, there, the ideal philosophy would be to never put yourself in a situation where one thing will make the big difference. To be prepared for anything possible. We're human. That's impossible, especially when you're limited to 6 Pokemon you can choose from and 4 move slot sheets. So you really have 24 built-in things that you can do. And sure, you can count minor things that can happen statistically. You can count the switches that you could go into, and that makes that number a little bit larger.
Yeah.
But your choices really are set in stone. And it really, Pokemon battles at its essential is being able to do and react to what the other competitive battler does.
Right.
And so the fact that the Pokemon that were there weren't able to deal with those two individuals, Hitmonchan and Registeel, and the fact that Chestnut got a very unfortunate crit off of an Ice Punch ultimately kind of sealed the deal.
Right.
A couple of those battles happened this week. I'm not going to get into my own personal one just because I don't want to steal anyone's thunder. Or bounce. So, one way or the other, just wanted to let you guys know what was going on in that sense.
There was a lot of paralyzed this week.
There really was.
A lot.
And just as an aside, go ahead and watch my battle against Hayden. Hayden did an excellent job. I know that I was very, very intimidated for that battle because Hayden had some really great Pokemon, but I'm going to leave that discussion for another time and for maybe somebody else.
Right, yes. Maybe later this week.
Absolutely.
All right, I believe that's all of the recap that we have to do now.
Yeah. So now it's forecasting. Forecasting predictions, the op-eds, opinionated editorials of the upcoming battles in the Johto League.
All right, Tyler and Monty battle.
That's a really interesting battle. I know that Monty has Hoopa, which did very well for a bit in his battle against Anthony, and he happens to have Mega Heracross, which is probably my 3rd or 4th favorite Mega overall in competitive battling.
It's very fun. It's hard to team build around, too.
Definitely.
Because it's got a lot of coverage moves, and they hit really hard.
Mm-hmm. And even trying to build your own team with Mega Heracross is, I'd say, maybe as difficult, because you have to make sure Mega Heracross does have some pretty glaring weaknesses too.
Right.
I mean, it's 4 times weak to flying alone, which is a very great competitive type. In fact, I think it's also the most common competitive type. And, it also doesn't like any fire. It doesn't like any other certain types of moves. So you have to make sure that you have the other teammates in place to build a really good core around that Mega Heracross. But in the matchup, getting back to basics against Tyler, it really will come down to Mega Heracross versus Mega Tyranitar, and we still need to update that document because it's throwing us off here.
I do have to say that I realize that it's not Mega Tyranitar. It is Mega Medicham, but Tyler's supposed to have Tyranitar instead of Klefki.
Right, because
no one has Mega Tyranitar. He has Mega Medicham still.
Right, because Hayden has Klefki.
Right.
Yeah.
Hayden down here, I looked. Hayden has Klefki on the sheet.
And I should know that, and I don't know why I'm looking this way, but that's because where the string is at. And I should know that because I battled Hayden with Klefki,
right,
and things happened. Right. So
Tyler has Tyranitar, which will help him out. But Heracross kind of annihilates Tyranitar. But the Mega matchup is Medicham and Heracross. Both fighting types, but Mega Medicham has that Psychic super effective move.
Right, but keeping in mind that Heracross is also
Bug.
It possesses Pin Missile.
Right.
So that Pin Missile might mean scary things for Medicham, and maybe a couple other players on Tyler's team.
Yeah, if you look at Tyler's OU picks, all 3 of them are weak to Bug.
Mm-hmm. Although he did drop Gothitelle for the upcoming battle against Monty for Kyurem Black.
Kyurem Black. I forgot about that too.
So that's going to help. That's actually going to help out Tyler, especially for this matchup with such weaknesses. I'm not. I was going to say Staraptor being the biggest one that I can see, and even being able to potentially block out some simple, normal type moves coming from Ursaring or Spinda.
That's true.
Because Quick Feed Ursaring is nothing to scoff at, but with that dragon typing, it's going to be able to counteract a couple of things, and also simply just take neutral damage where otherwise might not have with Gothitelle.
It's going to be a good battle.
Definitely. So good luck to you both.
I believe they're both. Nope, Tyler's 1 and 2, and Monty's 2 and 1.
So maybe a way to make it each of them 2 and 2.
Right.
Who knows?
Or Monty can just pull ahead.
Sure.
That'd be really cool to see.
That would be great. And ultimately, I'm not sure how that battle's going to end up. Although I still give my own personal edge, mega wise, to the Heracross.
Yeah, I think it would be a close match between the megas.
Absolutely.
All right, the next match is Keenan and Nick. Keenan with the Mega Pinsir and Nick with the Mega Lopunny.
Now, I have a shiny Baneri. Ooh, man, he's got shinies. And it actually is ready to be a Mega Lopunny. I just haven't put the time and effort forth into evolving it.
Oh, yeah.
So Mega Lopunny is great. I already sung my praises in Keenan's battle from last week about Mega Pinsir and how much I love it.
Mega Lopunny is amazing. I used it on my normal monotype team, and it just worked wonders. First person I battled was Dragon, and I'm like, what's normal going to do against Dragon?
Right.
And then Mega Lopunny comes in, fakes out somebody, and then it's just ice punching for days.
Yeah.
And it really won me the battle against Dragon.
I still like Mega Pinsir more in that matchup against Mega Lopunny.
Right.
I mean, the return, the quick attack, close combat, and
Mega
even
Pinsir
protecting to ensure the Mega stat changes.
Oh, yes.
Is a possibility.
To get the speed boost.
At the same time, though, I would caution Keenan about Mega Pinsir. And to think very clearly about what's going to happen, because Nick does possess some Pokemon that can just sit there and laugh at, or not right. Nick, sorry. Or yes, Nick.
Yes, Nick.
Nick, sorry. That possesses some Pokemon that can just sit in and laugh at Mega Pinsir all day.
Right.
And we'll leave those for you guys to discover on the document if you so wish.
Mega Pinsir, I think Mega Lopunny loses this battle, to be honest, because Pinsir has that flying super effective, and it double resists fighting. So, I mean, Lopunny will have to bring the coverage, but Pinsir has the speed and the priority, so I think Pinsir wins that Mega matchup.
Definitely. So, favor Mega Pinsir, but ultimately we don't know how the battle will go, so best of luck to each of you. And one thing I did want to mention as well with these Pokemon is we have some really good walls on either side.
Yeah.
I know that you can have a really bulky Suicune. Excadrill does a really great job as well, and it's actually really fast if you have the sand rush in place. I don't know if that'll be the case with this particular battle, and I know that the Keenan has some as well, especially on the special side. Just looking at Goodra, one of my favorite Pokemon, really was wonderful for me last season in terms of what it could do.
Cryogano is a very, very special wall with Rapid Spin as well, so that'll be very useful to keep Mega Pinsir alive with the Rapid Spin and the special bulk.
Absolutely.
Right. All right, moving on to the next battle. Next future battle. Adam and Anthony. Ooh. Anthony with the Mega Charizard and Adam right up here with Mega Aggron. Well,
I mean, it is a Mega Charizard X.
that's true. It's a physical attacker, and Aggron's got that physical defense. Like
typing wise, clearly Charizard, but Mega Aggron's ability filter allows it to maybe resist a couple of those hits a little bit more than it would. Although fire is one of those, of course, weaknesses that it has. But
if it has the right coverage.
If it has the right coverage, and if you don't Mega the Aggron, and you don't Mega the Charizard, then I think Aggron has that edge.
Yeah, with the rock, and it's neutral against fire.
Right.
Super resists, 4 times resist flying.
And the other thing that's scary about this particular matchup is just the sheer water that Adam possesses on his team, which may not be a really great ingredient for Charizard.
But still, Anthony has checks to that with Vaporeon.
Definitely.
With that Water Absorb, and Thundurus with Priority, Prankster, and the electric typing is really good. So it's going to be a close match.
Even Electivire to deal with some of those water types as well.
Oh, yes, down in NU. I didn't see that. Yep. It'll be good.
So that'll be a great match. Who knows the specific path that either of those will take. Anthony had a really ballsy strategy last week, and Adam ultimately had a very close battle with Drew as well, and has the tools at his disposal to potentially do some pretty cool things.
Right.
So
they both do.
So best of luck to both of you.
Right, best of luck. And the second to last is Zach and Drew, and then the last is the crossover. But Zach has the Mega Gardevoir and Drew with Mega Altaria, the fairy matchup of the century.
So it really comes down to this matchup is very tough for me Mega wise, because you do have the ability with Mega Altaria to just cotton guard Cloud9. You have some very great movesets that allow you to either stay in forever or potentially clear away some
forever.
Different things. Forever. So I actually don't know how I would actually address this Mega matchup. What do you think, Blake?
I think Mega Gardevoir has this one because Altaria is the Dragon type, which is weak to Fairy, and Fairy does not resist its own typing, being Fairy.
So that's not something that I considered, but a very
Dragon
good
Fairy
point.
is very weak to Fairy, and Mega Gardevoir has that ability which powers up Fairy attacks.
It does.
And
Pixelate?
Pixelate, yes.
Pixelate,
If
yep.
it's a normal attack, it becomes Fairy and gets powered up, which is very strong. So Mega Altaria will have to watch out for that. And Altaria doesn't really have anything for Gardevoir, really.
Right. I mean,
it can bulk. It can power up its bulk, but offensively, it's not going to do a lot. So I think Gardevoir has that in the bag. But again, they have checks for each other because Jirachi is a very good counter.
very solid. And if you learned anything from this battle last week, a very solid counter to Gardevoir.
And Fairy types.
But at the same time, too, Gardevoir can probably take down a couple of the different fighting types and whatnot in dark types that Drew possesses. So it'll be a really close matchup in that sense. And hopefully, you guys have a really good battle.
Right. I'm rooting for you, Zach, because Drew's undefeated. But, I mean, they're both very good battlers, and it can go either way. The last crossover match between Forrest and our very own Matt crossover.
What's up, y'all? I know you're all rooting for me because, frankly, nobody likes Forrest.
And we're all Kanto, so...
And we're all Kanto, so represent and show your love.
Yeah.
Whether through social media, whether through personal donations to the Goldenrod City Shiny organization. I thought
the Shiny stood for gold.
It does.
Goldenrod.
It does.
So do you need more money?
It would be nice. We've been sort of capped this year by the DHL in terms of how much we're able to provide scholarship-wise to
right,
each of our
right.
Pokemon players. So we just want to make sure that all of them get the love and the opportunity that they deserve,
You did
especially
pick
some of them coming from really poor urban environments.
Right, but you did pick up a lot of. You did pick up a lot of strong Pokemon from last season, so they probably already had big paychecks, and you're gonna have to deal that out sooner or later. So
Definitely,
you're gonna need the money for that.
Might have to address that salary cap through trades. Maybe
Right.
let some of the players go that aren't performing as they should.
We're looking at you, Mega Gyarados.
So I'll let you take the
Okay.
reins with this battle.
Mega Gyarados and Mega Sceptile are the megas for this matchup. Sceptile has the obvious grass type. Yeah, it has the obvious grass type. If Mega Gyarados doesn't want to Mega Evolve, it will take that grass type neutral, grass attacks neutral. So that could be a key ingredient into the matchup there.
And
They both-
luckily, I don't have any electric types, so I don't have to worry about Lightning Rod.
Right, but you could have electric attacks from very few Pokemon. Looking at it, they both have a lot of checks. I mean, you have to watch out for his setup Pokemon like Manaphy and Talonflame. You do not want those to set up. But I think you could pull it off. You have checks to those. But Forest will have to watch out for your priority with Bisharp and Entei and Lucario. Those are big threats. Like Hoopa's Dark Psychic, it does not want to take attacks from Pokemon like Togetic.
Togetic, Lucario. There's a really
Oh yeah,
number
Lucario's got the
of different
fighting
options that
neutral.
I have. So it's a good battle. Good luck to you, Forrest.
Yeah.
I hope you take your defeat with some pride.
Don't put too much effort. We don't want you crying when you lose.
I mean, really, this is an adult function, so be a man and take it like one. So it's going to be a good battle. I look forward to it. I'm gonna spoil this for you guys in advance. I'm not going to prepare for it at all because I seem to do better that way.
And you have a busy week schedule.
And I definitely have a busy week schedule this week. So I work 8 a.m. to 11 p.m. every night, with the exception, I think, Saturday. But I have Sunday off, I do believe, so I should be all right on that.
This was our only day to film this.
This was our only day to film it, so I'm glad to be here. Glad to be back again, once again.
Yes, we missed you last week.
We did.
Kirk
we
filled
did.
in, but you kind of switched because Kirk was supposed to be here this week.
Perfect. So
Yep.
ultimately everything works out for a reason, and we want to make sure that you guys have the content that you desire. So smash that like button, and we'll
Give us
see
a
you all-
thumbs up. Do they still have thumbs up?
I think they do. So we'll
Okay.
see you guys all next week.
Right. Don't forget to subscribe. We're at 15, and I'm trying to be the 17th subscriber. And it's been 15 for like 2 weeks. So somebody subscribe.
Spoiler alert, it's me.
I know. I've talked to people, and there's a lot of people.
Oh.
I don't know how we have 15 if so many people. But guys, please subscribe, and don't subscribe really all at the same time because I'm trying to be 17 here. But we will catch you later, guys.
Smell you later.
As Gary says, peace out.